It's looking like it'll be a blue Christmas this year because we've got a couple of art superstars coming up. Happy holidays, everyone. Soberoni of G&A Reviews here, bringing you a servant spotlight for the seasonal Christmas Gyaru, Vritra. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers that how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 5-star servants. So if you'd like to spend your Christmas in the warm, loving embrace of Vritra's tale, then make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring my bell so you can catch all of these spotlight videos as they go up, and you can help out the channel. And now, on to Vritra stats. Vritra has a max HP of 13,632 and a max attack of 12,332, which becomes 12,948 due to her Lancer class modifier. Her stat spread is a tale of extremes. She has the lowest HP of all SSR Lancers, but she also has the highest attack stat in her class. Surprisingly though, her HP stat is still about average for an SSR servant, while still having one of the highest attack stats in the game. When it comes to her command cards, Vritra has 4 hits on her quick card, 3 hits on her arts, 2 hits on her buster, and 5 hits on her extra card. She has an NP gain rate of 0.55% and a star rate of 12.2%. Her base NP gain is mediocre, mostly due to her low NP gain rate, but she does have decent star generating from her high hit counts. Overall, Vritra has good stats across the board, with exceptionally high attack, to make her more of a well-rounded offensive bruiser. Taking a look at her skills, Vritra's first skill is the all-penetrating Vajra, rank A. It increases her arch card effectiveness for 3 turns between 20 and 30%, and it also increases the star absorption of her arch cards for 1 turn between 300 and 500%, both depending on level. Her second skill is the predestined Divine Threat, rank A, which increases the party's damage against divine enemies for 3 turns and charges her own NP gauge, both between 20 and 30%, and both depending on level. And finally, her last skill is the Eternally Immortal Dragon, rank EX. This skill grants Vritra 1 stack of guts lasting for 5 turns, and reviving her with between 1000 and 3000 HP. It also charges her NP gauge every turn for 5 turns between 5 and 10%, and it increases the party's NP damage 1 time between 10 and 20%, all of these effects depending on level. As for her passives, Vritra has Magic Resistance rank A, which increases her debuff resistance by 20%, and Dragonkind rank A, which increases her buster card effectiveness by 10% and reduces her damage by 180. Taking a look at her deck and Noble Phantasm, Vritra has an Arts Quick deck with Quick Arts Buster and an Arts Noble Phantasm. Her Noble Phantasm is Ashura Shrestha, which is an AoE art attack that deals damage to all enemies with a damage modifier between 450 and 750% depending on level. It also skill seals them for 1 turn and reduces their critical attack chance by 20% for 3 turns, and it reduces their arch card resistance for 3 turns between 10 and 30% depending on overcharge. Vritra requires a diverse range of ascension mats, which unfortunately includes everyone's favorite, stakes. For level ascension, she's going to need 18 fangs, 8 snake jewels, 44 stakes, and 5 dragon scales. Fangs can be farmed at Deming in America, where they have a 67% drop rate. Snake jewels have a 47% drop rate at the Chasm in the Earth in Agartha. Stakes are best farmed at the Gallows Hill in Salem, where they have a 76% drop rate, and dragon scales drop at Nippur in Babylonia with a 12% drop rate. As for her skills, Vritra is going to need 12 snake jewels, 36 fangs, 24 eternal ice, and 24 giant rings per skill. Eternal Ice has a 51% drop rate at Yaga Moscow in Lost Belt 1, while giant rings drop at the Giant's Flower Garden in Lost Belt 2 with a 45% drop rate. Did you really think Ibuki would be the last monster girl we'd get this year? Well, think again, because nothing says Christmas like a sexy Gyaru dragon girl. For real, there seems to be a weird link between Christmas and Gyarus in Japan, and I can't imagine why. Either way, much like Ibuki, this beautiful dragoness is all offense first. She boasts an extremely large attack stat, the best in her class in fact, surpassing even Roma himself. But despite such a heavy investment into her offense, she still has decently good HP and star generating and passable NP gain, which makes her feel much more like an all-rounder rather than a glass cannon. But the biggest difference between Vritra and her fellow SSR Lancers is that she seems built from the ground up to be a pure Castoria looper. Right off the bat, her first skill, the all-penetrating Vajra, insert your joke here, provides her with a 3-turn 30% buff to arts, as well as an arts card star absorb. And by this point, I think we all know how good a 3-turn arts buff is for NP looping. But just to reiterate, this buff gives Vritra not only better damage on her NP and arts cards, but better NP gain as well, which helps make up for her initial low NP gain rate, and actually gives Vritra surprisingly good NP gain in practice. The star absorb Orb shouldn't go overlooked either. Sure, it only lasts for a single turn, but it can be very useful in a pinch to get even better NP gain out of Vritra's arts crits. So this skill really helps boost her NP consistency, but not as much as her next skill, Divine Threat. Divine Threat is a 30% NP battery that also increases damage against divine enemies by 30% for 3 turns. Again, the NP charge is excellent for fueling her NP looping and enabling her to NP on turn 1 in most setups. The anti-divine buff isn't as relevant since you don't typically use Vritra for anything but farming mobs, but it can occasionally come in handy since a lot of archers do have the divinity trait. But just when you think there couldn't possibly be any more NP charging in Vritra's kit, her third skill, the Eternally Immortal Demon, shows up. This skill is a guts paired with a one-time 20% NP buff and a 10% NP charge that triggers at the end of the turn, every turn for 5 turns. Immortal Demon works very similarly to Loli Da Vinci's Golden Rule skill in that it provides a bit of additional NP refund to Vritra every turn, which is very useful for consistency if you're up against Berserker enemies or any class that provides less than optimal NP refund. The NP damage buff is only 20%, which may seem low at first, but when combined with Vritra's arts buff, it actually gives her a very good overall buff to her NP damage. Unfortunately though, it only lasts for 1 hit, and you need to use it on turn 1 if you want to maximize Vritra's per turn NP battery, which makes it extremely cumbersome and counterintuitive for farming, since you usually want to save your strongest NP for turn 3. The guts is also obviously not very useful for farming, but it does give Vritra some extra survivability if you choose to use her for story or boss fights. As far as her skills go, I would recommend leveling Divine Threat for the immediate charge first, followed by Immortal Demon, and then the arts buff last. But honestly, all of her skills have such high synergy with each other that you should aim to level them all to max simultaneously if possible. The only append skill that Vritra needs to pick up is mana loading, since it will help her with her farming. And speaking of farming, Vritra's NP is an AoE arts attack that skill seals enemies, reduces their crit chance, and lowers their arts card resistance. The skill seal and crit down provides some niche utility to Vritra in boss fights, so it is nice to have, but as far as her kit goes, the usefulness of this NP comes solely from its looping capability in Castoria teams. As I've stressed, Vritra is pretty much built completely to be an NP looper, and to that effect, she does work very well. Every skill in her kit is designed to maximize the consistency with which she can loop by providing her with either additional NP gain or NP charge. And there aren't many other arts looping Lancers outside of Melt, who is a limited servant. And to Vritra's credit, she does deal more damage than the SR Lancers, but unfortunately she isn't quite as consistent as Summer Melt. Vritra's overall NP damage is also very lacking compared to the other SSR AoE Lancers like Arash. So if you do plan to use her for some heavy farming, you're going to need to have her at least at NP2, or else she's going to struggle to take out high HP enemies. It is worth noting though that unlike most other pure farmers, Vritra's extra bits of utility like her skill seal, arch resist down, and anti-divine can allow her to be used flexibly like for certain boss fights. Still though, when it comes to team comps, you're going to want to exclusively pair Vritra with servants who can buff her NP gain and provide her with NP charge, like Castoria, Nero Bride, Radiance, and Paracelsus. Castoria and Paracelsus are the go-tos for farming, Paracelsus being an excellent free-to-play option for his whopping buffs to NP gain, and Castoria of course being the optimal support for 3-turn farming. Rhaenys and Bride also provide a ton of NP gain, so they can also be useful for farming, but since they provide a myriad of other buffs as well, they can also be used for more versatility in challenge quests. Vritra's Bond CE is Natural Dam Boundary. It increases the party's damage against divine enemies by 20%. Very thematic, but unfortunately not useful on Vritra. Instead, give her CEs that grant starting NP charge and can buff her NP damage so that she can be better off with farming like Kaleidoscope, Dive to Blue, or Painting Summer. In the future, I recommend using Ocean Flyer on Vritra. Not only does the CE feature her in a stunning bikini, but it also buffs her arch card effectiveness, NP gain, and grants her starting NP charge, along with full attack stats. So it's quite literally made for her. As a 3-turn farmer, Vritra usually doesn't make use of command codes, but if you do want to give her one, Mages of Flowers can be helpful for that little bit of extra NP charge that it gives. Overall, Vritra is a strong farmer for arts teams. She has very good 3-turn looping capabilities due to her high consistency and NP charging skills. She has strong all-around stats and skills, and she has good utility if you should need a Lancer for tough boss fights. Unfortunately for her though, she isn't quite as good as the upper echelon of arts loopers like Musashi and Spishtar. She isn't as strong a looper as Summer Melt, and her NP damage is very weak compared to to most other AoE Lancers, so she needs to be at higher NP levels to farm efficiently. So all in all, Vritra gets a B+ from me. I think she's a very good arts looper, and she is permanent, so she is an excellent pickup or spook for anyone who missed out on Summer Melt, but she is desperately in need of an NP upgrade to compete with the better arts farmers in the game. If she were to get a buff like that, I think she would skyrocket to being a top tier Lancer, but as of right now, I'd consider her just shy of that mark. And those are my thoughts on Vritra. Honestly, if you're thinking about rolling her for gameplay reasons, I would suggest skipping her, since we do have two way better art servants coming out next month with Muramasa and Space Ishtar getting a rerun, but for those men of culture who can't resist the Dragusi, then I wish you the best of luck. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over to Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter, and I'll see you all in the next Servant Spotlight. Sobroni out. Later.